Shame is a soul-eating emotion. Man needs difficulties. They are necessary for health. We are born at a given moment, in a given place, and like vintage years of wine, we have the qualities of the year and of the season in which we are born. None of the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. Where love rules, there is no will to power, and where power predominates, love is lacking. The one is the shadow of the other. The greatest and most important problems of life are all fundamentally insoluble. They can never be solved, but only outgrown. The greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents. An understanding heart is everything in a teacher and cannot be esteemed highly enough. One looks back with appreciation to the brilliant teachers, but with gratitude to those who touched our human feeling. The debt we owe to the play of imagination is incalculable. A dream that is not understood remains a mere occurrence. Understood, it becomes a living experience. If there is anything that we wish to change in the child, we should first examine it and see whether it is not something that could better be changed in ourselves. Man's task is to become conscious of the contents that press upward from the unconscious. As any change must begin somewhere, it is the single individual who will undergo it and carry it through. Show me a sane man, and I will cure him for you. The first half of life is devoted to forming a healthy ego. The second half is going inward and letting go of it. The creation of something new is not accomplished by the intellect, but by the play instinct acting from inner necessity. The least of things with a meaning is worth more in life than the greatest of things without it. Every form of addiction is bad, no matter whether the narcotic be alcohol or morphine or idealism. Every human life contains a potential. If that potential is not fulfilled, then that life was wasted. Knowing your own darkness is the best method for dealing with the darknesses of other people. Even a happy life cannot be without a measure of darkness, and the word happy would lose its meaning if it were not balanced by sadness. It all depends on how we look at things, and not on how they are in themselves. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. A child educated only at school is an uneducated child. Fanaticism consists in redoubling your effort when you have forgotten your aim. The family is one of nature's masterpieces. The great difficulty in education is to get experience out of ideas. Knowledge of what is possible is the beginning of happiness. There is no cure for birth and death save to enjoy the interval. The dreamer can know no truth, not even about his dream, except by waking from it. Habit is stronger than reason. Friendship is almost always the union of a part of one mind with a part of another. People are friends in spots. Skepticism, like chastity, should not be relinquished too readily. To be interested in the changing seasons is a happier state of mind than to be hopelessly in love with spring. The truth is cruel, but it can be loved, and it makes free those who have loved it. Sanity is a madness put to good uses. Advertising is the modern substitute for argument. Its function is to make the worse appear the better. The world is not respectable. It is mortal, tormented, confused, deluded forever. But it is shot through with beauty, with love, with glints of courage and laughter, and in these the spirit blooms. The universe, as far as we can observe it, is a wonderful and immense engine. Its extent, its order, its beauty, its cruelty makes it alike impressive. A man is morally free when, in a condition of perfect composure, he can repeat his deepest conviction. The difficult is that which can be done immediately, the impossible that which takes a little longer. Intolerance is a form of egotism, and to condemn egotism intolerantly is to share it. Life is not a spectacle or a feast, it is a predicament. Nothing is so irrevocable as time lost. We must welcome the future, remembering that soon it will be the past, and we must respect the past, remembering that it was once all that was humanly possible. Love makes us poets, and the approach of death should make us philosophers. Society is like the air, necessary to breathe, but insufficient to live on. The hunger for facile wisdom is the root of all false philosophy. A soul is but the last bubble of a long fermentation in the world. Chaos is a name for any order that produces confusion in our minds. The man who is in love with the universe will experience no bitterness when it does not reciprocate. Progress, far from consisting in change, depends on retentiveness. There is nothing to which men cling more tenaciously than the privileges of class. Graphic design is the paradise of individuality, eccentricity, heresy, abnormality, hobbies, and humors. The highest form of vanity is love of fame. The more rational an idea is, the more certain it is to stand on its own merit, without the help of ostentation or hypocrisy. A nation that forgets its defenses may eventually find itself unable to remember anything else. Our dignity is not in what we do, but in what we understand. Wisdom comes by disillusionment. The earth has music for those who listen. Beauty is a pledge of the possible conformity between the soul and nature. There is no room for the very excellent. They crowd each other out. Each religion, by the help of more or less myth which it takes seriously, proposes some method of fortifying the human soul and enabling it to make its peace with its destiny. Parents lend children their experience and a vicarious memory. Children endow their parents with a vicarious immortality. Philosophy begins in wonder, and at the end, when philosophic thought has done its best, the wonder remains. For a man to be truly himself, he must merge with his social destiny. The need for philosophy arises when our world fails. History is a pack of lies about events that never happened, told by people who weren't there. The saint is a man who never sins by chance. The mind is a machine for making the future. Fashion is something barbarous, for it produces innovation without reason and imitation without benefit. Reason is only a principle of the mind's economy, a habit of discarding error, an estimate of reality. All warfare is based on deception. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak. In the midst of chaos, there is also opportunity. The greatest victory is that which requires no battle. He who knows when he can fight and when he cannot will be victorious. Engage people with what they expect. It is what they are able to discern and confirms their projections. It settles them into predictable patterns of response, occupying their minds while you wait for the extraordinary moment, that which they cannot anticipate. Let your plans be dark and impenetrable as night, and when you move, fall like a thunderbolt. There is no instance of a nation benefiting from prolonged warfare. The wise warrior avoids the battle. He will win who knows how to handle both superior and inferior forces. To know your enemy, you must become your enemy. He who is prudent and lies in wait for an enemy who is not, will be victorious. All men can see these tactics whereby I conquer, but what none can see is a strategy out of which victory is evolved. The skillful fighter puts himself into a position which makes defeat impossible and does not miss the moment for defeating the enemy. To secure ourselves against defeat lies in our own hands, but the opportunity of defeating the enemy is provided by the enemy himself. Do not repeat the tactics which have gained you one victory, but let your methods be regulated by the infinite variety of circumstances. Military tactics are like unto water, for water in its natural course runs away from high places and hastens downwards. When you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Do not press a desperate foe too hard. Move swift as the wind and closely formed as the wood. Attack like the fire and be still as the mountain. Ponder and deliberate before you make a move. When strong, avoid them. If of high morale, depress them. Seem humble to fill them with conceit. If at ease, exhaust them. If united, separate them. Attack their weaknesses, emerge to their surprise. Attack is the secret of defense. Defense is the planning of an attack. Those who are skilled in combat do not become angered. Those who are skilled at winning do not become afraid. Thus, the wise win before they fight, while the ignorant fight to win. Build your opponent a golden bridge to retreat across. Management of many is the same as management of few. It is a matter of organization. What the ancients called a clever fighter is one who not only wins, but excels in winning with ease. Opportunities multiply as they are seized. A leader leads by example, not by force. The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon, which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. Who wishes to fight must first count the cost. He who knows when to fight and when not to fight will win. The art of war teaches us to rely not on the likelihood of the enemy's not coming, but on our own readiness to receive him, not on the chance of his not attacking, but rather on the fact that we have made our position unassailable. He will win who, prepared himself, waits to take the enemy unprepared. He who wishes to fight must first count the cost. In war, the way is to avoid what is strong and to strike at what is weak. We cannot enter into alliances until we are acquainted with the designs of our neighbors. So in war, the way is to avoid what is strong and strike at what is weak. If your opponent is of choleric temper, seek to irritate him. Pretend to be weak, that he may grow arrogant. Energy may be likened to the bending of a crossbow, decision to the releasing of a trigger. Do not press an enemy at bay. One may know how to conquer without being able to do it. If there is disturbance in the camp, the general's authority is weak. If his forces are united, separate them. Regard your soldiers as your children, and they will follow you into the deepest valleys. Look on them as your own beloved sons, and they will stand by you even unto death. When envoys are sent with compliments in their mouths, it is a sign that the enemy wishes for a truce. When you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Do not press a desperate foe too hard. You have to believe in yourself. If the mind is willing, the flesh could go on and on without many things. Pretend inferiority and encourage his arrogance. When your army has crossed the border, you should burn your boats and bridges in order to make it clear to everybody that you have no hankering after home. Move not unless you see an advantage. Use not your troops unless there is something to be gained. Fight not unless the position is critical. No ruler should put troops into the field merely to gratify his own spleen. No general should fight a battle simply out of pique. If it is to your advantage, make a forward move. If not, stay where you are. Begin by seizing something which your opponent holds dear, then he will be amenable to your will. Rouse him and learn the principle of his activity or inactivity. Force him to reveal himself so as to find out his vulnerable spots. The general who advances without coveting fame and retreats without fearing disgrace, whose only thought is to protect his country and do good service for his sovereign, is the jewel of the kingdom. He who relies solely on warlike measures shall be exterminated. He who relies solely on peaceful measures shall perish. Be the change that you wish to see in the world. An eye for an eye will only make the whole world blind. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. Live as if you were to die tomorrow. Learn as if you were to live forever. The weak can never forgive. Forgiveness is the attribute of the strong. Happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. In a gentle way, you can shake the world. Where there is love, there is life. Freedom is not worth having if it does not include the freedom to make mistakes. You must be the change you wish to see in the world. Strength does not come from physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will. The future depends on what we do in the present. You may never know what results come of your actions, but if you do nothing, there will be no results. Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's needs, but not every man's greed. Action expresses priorities. The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. Satisfaction lies in the effort, not in the attainment. Full effort is full victory. It is health that is real wealth and not pieces of gold and silver. A nation's culture resides in the hearts and in the soul of its people. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. There is more to life than increasing its speed. Nonviolence is a weapon of the strong. If we want to reach real peace in this world, we should start educating children. You must not lose faith in humanity. Humanity is an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the ocean does not become dirty. Glory lies in the attempt to reach one's goal and not in reaching it. The difference between what we do and what we are capable of doing would suffice to solve most of the world's problems. Our ability to reach unity and diversity will be the beauty and the test of our civilization. A man is but the product of his thoughts. What he thinks, he becomes. Prayer is not asking, it is a longing of the soul. It is daily admission of one's weakness. To believe in something and not to live it is dishonest. Strength does not come from winning. Your struggles develop your strengths. A coward is incapable of exhibiting love. It is the prerogative of the brave. Service which is rendered without joy helps neither the servant nor the served. There is no school equal to a decent home and no teacher equal to a virtuous parent. A no uttered from the deepest conviction is better than a yes merely uttered to please, or worse, to avoid trouble. The day the power of love overrules the love of power, the world will know peace. If patience is worth anything, it must endure to the end of time, and a living faith will last in the midst of the blackest storm. To give pleasure to a single heart by a single act is better than 1,000 heads bowing in prayer. There is a sufficiency in the world for man's need, but not for man's greed. Gentleness, self-sacrifice, and generosity are the exclusive possession of no one race or religion. It is unwise to be too sure of one's own wisdom. It is healthy to be reminded that the strongest might weaken and the wisest might err. In matters of conscience, the law of the majority has no place. There is no path to peace. Peace is the path. Truth never damages a cause that is just. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. The good man is the friend of all living things. Faith is not something to grasp, it is a state to grow into. You may never know what results come of your actions, but if you do nothing, there will be no result. A small body of determined spirits fired by an unquenchable faith in their mission can alter the course of history. Justice is what love looks like in public. You can't lead the people if you don't love the people. You can't save the people if you don't serve the people. If you're not serving others, then what's your life all about? I cannot be an optimist, but I am a prisoner of hope. To be a Christian is to live dangerously, honestly, freely. To step in the name of love as if you may land on nothing, yet to keep stepping because the something that sustains you, no empire can take away. To be great, you have to be misunderstood. There is a price to pay for speaking the truth. There is a bigger price for living a lie. You have to be a thermostat rather than a thermometer. A thermometer just records the temperature in a room. A thermostat changes it. If the kingdom of God is in you, you should leave a little bit of heaven wherever you go. We have to recognize that there cannot be relationships unless there is commitment, unless there is loyalty, unless there is love, patience, persistence. Love is the only thing that can conquer hate. Every person has a right to dignity and decency. Every person has a right to flourish and to live. To be a moral agent is to be a sensitive, attentive, empathetic, loving, kind human being. Hope is not a feeling, it is a decision. We must recognize that there is no cheap grace in our history. To be human, you must bear witness to justice. Courage is the most necessary of all the virtues, because without courage, you can't practice any other virtue consistently. You can't have a high quality of democracy without a high quality of education. The black agenda is a moral agenda. There is no life without a measure of darkness, and the darkness alone is sufficient to make the blackness beautiful. Democracy is about the use of collective power to transform society. Race matters. Race is an integral part of American society. Justice is what love looks like in public. Mercy is what love looks like in private. To be human is to suffer, to endure, and to have faith in something greater than yourself. The greatest tradition in Black America is one of critique. Democracy is a tragic conflict of irreconcilable values. To be great is to dare to love profoundly. The condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak. The problem with our society is that we have taken the self-centeredness of the human ego and projected it into a market structure. To be a follower of Jesus is to live a life of love. We must teach our children to dream with their eyes open. Hope is in what you do, not what you say. The Black freedom struggle has been a freedom struggle for all peoples. Humility is the key to wisdom. Courage is a moral quality, not an intellectual one. Dissent is the highest form of patriotism. Radical love is an anti-imperialist, anti-racist love. You cannot separate truth and justice. To love others is to see them as they truly are. The test of love is action. We are in a situation where we have to see justice as a way of life. The function of education is to teach one to think intensively and to think critically. No great democracy is ever without a spiritual dimension. There is no such thing as a non-racial democracy. Democracy is a spiritual, not just a political concept. The soul of democracy is love. To speak truth to power is a way of loving your neighbor. Spiritual blackout is the condition of a civilization that has lost its sense of humanity. Humility is the greatest virtue. It allows us to grow in love, justice, and wisdom. Believe you can and you're halfway there. Do what you can with what you have, where you are. It is hard to fail, but it is worse never to have tried to succeed. Keep your eyes on the stars and your feet on the ground. Speak softly and carry a big stick. You will go far. Far better is it to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to rank with those timid spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The next best thing is the wrong thing, and the worst thing you can do is nothing. Courage is not having the strength to go on. It is going on when you don't have the strength. People ask the difference between a leader and a boss. The leader leads and the boss drives. To educate a person in the mind but not in morals is to educate a menace to society. The only man who never makes a mistake is the man who never does anything. A thorough knowledge of the Bible is worth more than a college education. I am a part of everything that I have read. Great thoughts speak only to the thoughtful mind, but great actions speak to all mankind. The best executive is the one who has sense enough to pick good men to do what he wants done, and self-restraint enough to keep from meddling with them while they do it. With self-discipline, most anything is possible. No man is worth his salt who is not ready at all times to risk his body, to risk his well-being, to risk his life in a great cause. Never throughout history has a man who lived a life of ease left a name worth remembering. The most practical kind of politics is the politics of decency. Don't hit at all if it is honorably possible to avoid hitting, but never hit softly. The things that will destroy America are prosperity at any price, peace at any price, safety first instead of duty first, the love of soft living, and the get-rich-quick theory of life. Courtesy is as much a mark of a gentleman as courage. We must dare to be great, and we must realize that greatness is the fruit of toil and sacrifice and high courage. A vote is like a rifle. Its usefulness depends upon the character of the user. If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month. Do what you can with all you have, wherever you are. There is delight in the hardy life of the open. We are face to face with our destiny, and we must meet it with a high and resolute courage. Character, in the long run, is the decisive factor in the life of an individual and of nations alike. The reactionary is always willing to take a progressive attitude on any issue that is dead. Old age is like everything else. To make a success of it, you've got to start young. A great democracy has got to be progressive, or it will soon cease to be great or a democracy. Don't expect to build up the weak by pulling down the strong. The joy in life is his who has the heart to demand it. The reason fat men are good-natured is they can neither fight nor run. The one thing I want to leave my children is an honorable name. There is not one among us in whom a devil does not dwell. At some time, on some point, that devil masters each of us. Order without liberty and liberty without order are equally destructive. We cannot afford to sit huddled within our own borders and avow ourselves merely an assemblage of well-to-do hucksters who care nothing for what happens beyond. It is only through labor and painful effort, by grim energy and resolute courage, that we move on to better things. The government is us. We are the government, you and I. Big jobs usually go to the men who prove their ability to outgrow small ones. It is not what we have that will make us a great nation. It is the way in which we use it. No man is above the law and no man is below it, nor do we ask any man's permission when we require him to obey it. We should keep steadily before our minds the fact that we are not building this country of ours for a day. It is to last through the ages. There is no more effective way to preach socialism than to fail to administer wisely and honestly the affairs of the Republic. We have room for but one flag, the American flag. We have room for but one language here, and that is the English language. Every immigrant who comes here should be required within 5 years to learn English or leave the country. Every man owes some of his time to the upbuilding of the profession to which he belongs. No man is justified in doing evil on the ground of expediency. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. To live is to suffer. To survive is to find some meaning in the suffering. That which does not kill us makes us stronger. The higher we soar, the smaller we appear to those who cannot fly. He who fights with monsters should be careful lest he thereby become a monster. And if you gaze long enough into an abyss, the abyss will gaze back into you. There are no facts, only interpretations. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. We love life, not because we are used to living, but because we are used to loving. The advantage of a bad memory is that one enjoys several times the same good things for the first time. It is not a lack of love, but a lack of friendship that makes unhappy marriages. He who cannot obey himself will be commanded. Without music, life would be a mistake. All great things must first wear terrifying and monstrous masks in order to inscribe themselves on the hearts of humanity. Become who you are. The man of knowledge must be able not only to love his enemies, but also to hate his friends. Convictions are more dangerous foes of truth than lies. Whoever fights monsters should see to it that in the process, he does not become a monster. You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. A good writer possesses not only his own spirit, but also the spirit of his friends. The individual has always had to struggle to keep from being overwhelmed by the tribe. To forget one's purpose is the commonest form of stupidity. There is always some madness in love, but there is also always some reason in madness. What does not destroy me makes me stronger. Faith, not wanting to know what is true. The true man wants two things: danger and play. To do is to be. To do is to suffer. We have art in order not to die of the truth. In every real man, a child is hidden that wants to play. Man is the cruelest animal. When you look into an abyss, the abyss also looks into you. A thought, even a possibility, can shatter and transform us. There are no beautiful surfaces without a terrible depth. Is life not 1,000 times too short for us to bore ourselves? Hope in reality is the worst of all evils because it prolongs the torments of man. We often refuse to accept an idea merely because the tone of voice in which it has been expressed is unsympathetic to us. The surest way to corrupt a youth is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. One ought to hold on to one's heart, for if one lets it go, one soon loses control of the head too. In individuals, insanity is rare, but in groups, parties, nations, and epochs, it is the rule. The best weapon against an enemy is another enemy. Invisible threads are the strongest ties. It is my ambition to say in 10 sentences what others say in a whole book. The essence of all beautiful art, all great art, is gratitude. To predict the behavior of ordinary people in advance, you only have to assume that they will always try to escape a disagreeable situation with the smallest possible expenditure of intelligence. A thinker sees his own actions as experiments and questions, as attempts to find out something. A casual stroll through the lunatic asylum shows that faith does not prove anything. We should consider every day lost on which we have not danced at least once. One must pay dearly for immortality. One has to die several times while one is still alive. In truth, there was only one Christian, and he died on the cross. When we are tired, we are attacked by ideas we conquered long ago. Art is the proper task of life. There are no eternal facts, as there are no absolute truths. The higher man is distinguished from the lower by his fearlessness and his readiness to challenge. What is great in man is that he is a bridge and not a goal. One repays a teacher badly if one always remains nothing but a pupil. What is the seal of liberation? Not to be ashamed in front of oneself. Morality is the herd instinct in the individual. The doer alone learneth. To live alone, one must be a beast or a god, says Aristotle. Leaving out the third case, one must be both, a philosopher. One must be a sea to receive a polluted stream without becoming impure. A politician divides mankind into two classes, tools and enemies. To use the same words is not a sufficient guarantee of understanding. One must use the same words for the same genus of inward experience. Ultimately, one must have one's experiences in common. He who would learn to fly one day must first learn to stand and walk and run and climb and dance. One cannot fly into flying. When we are in love, we are convinced nobody else will do. But as time goes, others do, and often do much better. The greatest events, they are not our loudest but our stillest hours. Thoughts are the shadows of our feelings, always darker, emptier, and simpler. He who despises himself still respects himself as one who despises. The world is beautiful, but has a disease called man. We have art so that we shall not die of reality. There is not enough love and goodness in the world to permit giving any of it away to imaginary beings. All truly great thoughts are conceived while walking. The great epochs of our life come when we gain the courage to rechristen our evil as what is best in us. He who climbs upon the highest mountains laughs at all tragedies, real or imaginary. Man is something that shall be overcome. What is done out of love always takes place beyond good and evil. It is easier to cope with a bad conscience than with a bad reputation. Success has always been a great liar. One must give value to their existence by behaving as if one's very existence were a work of art. Live dangerously. The more abstract the truth you want to teach, the more you must seduce the senses to it. He who obeys does not listen to himself. It is hard enough to remember my opinions without also remembering my reasons for them. What do you regard as most humane? To spare someone's shame. There is more wisdom in your body than in your deepest philosophy. No price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself. The most perfidious way of harming a cause consists of defending it deliberately with faulty arguments. Poets are shameless with their experiences. They exploit them. One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star. Sometimes people don't want to hear the truth because they don't want their illusions destroyed. Whoever despises himself nonetheless respects himself as one who despises. The thought of suicide is a great consolation. By means of it, one gets through many a dark night. One does not know, cannot know, the best that is in one. It is not the strength, but the duration of great sentiments that makes great men. The surest way to avoid being fooled is to always be on guard against being foolish. Truths are illusions, which we have forgotten are illusions. Knowledge kills action. Action requires the veils of illusion. You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes? A great man, one who sees more truths, who sees greater ones, and who sees more clearly than others. Every deep thinker is more afraid of being understood than of being misunderstood. To recognize untruth as a condition of life, that to be sure means resisting accustomed value feelings in a dangerous, awe-inspiring way.